Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Mississippi beef short ribs. That's right, I'm adapting this from a recipe I've never tried called Mississippi pot roast, which went viral a few years ago. And believe it or not, featured beef cooked with a package of dry au jus gravy mix and a package of dry powdered ranch dressing mix. Which sounds bizarre, but people were raving about how good it was. So I decided I would try it with some boneless short ribs. And for a little extra challenge, I decided to try to do it without the artificially flavored powder packets. And what we'll do to get started is go ahead and season our boneless beef short ribs, which are one of the most beautiful cuts on the cow. I mean, come on, check out that marbling. And these were pretty much fully trimmed except for this one piece, which still had a little bit of fat and membrane on one side, which I'm going to leave, but I'm going to make one little cut right there so it doesn't curl up when it cooks. And then we'll go ahead and season these very generously with a mixture of salt, freshly ground black pepper, and a little touch of cayenne. And in case you're wondering, no, these aren't actually beef short ribs, but they're cut from a muscle very close and are just absolutely perfect for braised dishes like this. And while they are a little more expensive than actual beef short ribs, you pretty much get to eat 100% of what you've bought. So I still think they're a pretty good value. And then what we'll do once those are seasoned is go ahead and brown those in a little bit of oil over high heat on all four sides. And don't be in a hurry. We want a really nice sear here. Oh, and for the record, while this searing does add more flavor, it makes for a better appearance, what it does not do is seal in the juices, which I still hear some chefs saying. Okay, that sizzling you're going to hear in the pan is literally from the juices coming out. So the next time you hear a chef say that, please correct them. And then what we'll do once we have that beef thoroughly seared on all sides is transfer that into our baking pan or dish. At which point we're going to use that same deliciously dirty pan to saute some mushrooms and onions, along with a little pinch of salt. And we'll do that over medium-high heat until our onions soften and turn translucent, as well as our mushrooms start to get a little bit golden brown. And what we'll do while those are sauteing is go ahead and mix up our seasoning blend, which is going to include some kosher salt, some granulated garlic, also known as garlic powder, as well as some onion powder, also known as granulated onion. We will also want some freshly ground black pepper, as well as some dry dill, some dry rosemary, and some dried thyme. And then we'll finish up with, believe it or not, a couple tablespoons of Parmesan cheese. And that's it. We'll take a spoon and give that a mix. And hopefully that, along with the other things we're going to add, will simulate our packaged au jus gravy mix and ranch dressing mix. And then once that's done, we'll go ahead and sprinkle that evenly over our meat. And even though I've never had the original recipe, I really think I got extremely close to the flavor profile. All right, so that's looking good, or at least interesting. And we'll let that sit there while we head back to the stove to finish our braising liquid. And once our onions and mushrooms are looking a little something like this, we'll go ahead and sprinkle in a tablespoon of flour. And we'll stir that in and just cook it for 2 minutes. And what that little bit of starch is going to do is not necessarily thicken up our sauce, but it will give it a little bit of body, and it won't be quite as watery. And then what we'll do after that's cooked for about 2 minutes is pour in some chicken broth, or beef broth, as well as a little bit of soy sauce and a little touch of Worcestershire sauce. And again, these ingredients along with our secret seasoning blend is going to help us mimic that MSG Lay's packaged mix. And we will give that a stir. And basically as soon as that starts to boil, we can go ahead and pull it off the stove and pour that over our beef short ribs. And we'll take our spatula and try to spread that over evenly. And then besides the packaged gravy and ranch dressing mix, the other signature ingredients in the Mississippi pot roast are some pepperoncini, which are those tangy, briny, sort of spicy peppers you get on subs. And in the original recipe, those are used whole. So if you want to use the whole ones, go ahead. I mean, you are, after all, the chief of your Mississippi beef. But I had a jar sliced in the fridge, so that's what I used. And then we'll go ahead and finish this with the last signature ingredient, a lot of butter. Is in like half a stick. And since I have 3 hunks of meat, I slice that into 6 pieces. And that's it. Once those are placed on top, we'll go ahead and wrap this in foil. And we will transfer that into the center of a 350-degree oven for about 2.5 hours, or until our meat is fork tender. And after braising in the oven for about 2.5 hours, if everything's gone according to plan, we should have something that looks a little something like this. And of course, we're going to want to test that for doneness with a fork. And it should go in with almost no effort. And the meat should very easily pull apart. So that is looking just about perfect. And then I think before we serve these, we should give them a very thorough basting with our braising liquid. Speaking of which, we're going to have a very generous layer of fat floating on top of that, which we could skim off. and I did a little bit. But don't forget, that's not just beef fat, that's also melted butter. So you're going to have to decide how much to include or not include. But I think leaving a little bit's not a bad idea. And that's it. I went ahead and served some up on some mashed potatoes. And of course, we're going to want to spoon over plenty of those onions, mushrooms, and peppers. And I finished up with some freshly chopped Italian parsley. And man, this really did smell incredible. So I was pretty excited to grab a fork and dig in. And that ended up being one of the most flavorful braised beef dishes I've had in a long time. In fact, it was almost too flavorful. And as I was eating this, I realized why they probably used the whole pepperoncini in the original recipe. Okay, because those have such a sharp, tangy, briny flavor, since I'd used the sliced ones and a large quantity of them, it really sort of amplified the saltiness of the dish, and it was almost but not quite too much. So I'll probably recommend using the whole peppers in the blog post, or if you're going to use a slice, maybe do a little less. But above and beyond that, this really was fantastic. Just extremely beefy and intensely savory. And even though, like I said, I've never tasted the original, I can totally understand why it went viral. And above and beyond the ingredients we used here, I hope this video serves as a reminder that the next time you're going to braise beef, go find yourself some beautifully marbled boneless beef short ribs, so you can see for yourself why I think it's one of the best cuts on the entire animal. But anyway, that's it, what we're calling Mississippi boneless beef short ribs. Maybe one of these days I'll pull out the slow cooker and put on a disguise and go to the store and buy some packaged au jus gravy mix and powdered ranch dressing mix. And I'll give the original one a try so I can taste the difference. But in the meantime, whether you've had the original Mississippi pot roast or not, I really do hope you give this a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.